Welcome to the University of Wisconsin Physics Department Lecture Demonstrations Office. Today we're going to show you the demonstration called Cut the String. That consists of a motor that drives a rotating arm. This arm is allowed to rotate around in a circle. We can adjust the speed of the rotational motion by adjusting the slip clutch that's on the motor system. There is a knife that we can raise and lower and cut the string. This is a very fine string that's attached to the ball. As this ball rotates around in a circle, the ball is going to lift up and apply attention to this. And as this does this, gives us, the arm is giving us a central force, and we are going to remove it and let the ball fly off tangentially and assume a parabolic trajectory as it falls due to gravity. So here we go. Be careful about raising up the knife because you can actually hit the ball and break it off.
Hi guys, I'm CJ, and I'm just going to be breaking down the demo that you saw because it's super important. It shows up all the time, like every single AP test probably has it. It's on so many tests, the mid-year probably had like 2 or 3 problems on it. So it's important that you understand it. Listen to me. To do this problem, you have to break it up between the X direction and the Y direction. And that's also basically true for all projectile motion problems. But this one is a little bit different because you have phase 1 in the X direction and phase 2. So phase 1 is the ball is going in a circle, it feels a centripetal force, and the velocity of the ball is always perpendicular to that centripetal force all the way around the circle. And so at this instant, this guy raises his knife and he cuts the string and there's no more centripetal force. So what you have is this velocity in phase 2 going in the same direction with no net force. And so a lot of people make the mistake of thinking, oh, the ball was curving before, so it's going to stay curved. No, the path of the ball is straight. It shows up all the time. After the string is cut, the path of the ball is straight. So just remember that and you'll get the points. But in the Y direction, right here, it's a little bit different. So after the ball is released, the F net exists. It's the force of gravity. And so in the Y direction, you actually do see a curved path. It experiences FG, it accelerates downward, 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 until it actually hits the ground. And so while there is no curve in the X direction whatsoever, you do still see this projectile motion as if a ball was shot off a cliff.
Alright, what's up guys? I'm going to show you how centripetal force works using this iPhone charger and this piece of string. And so we get these bad boys moving in a circle. And so now that it's moving in a circle, you know that there has to be some kind of centripetal force to keep it moving in this direction. And so basically the centripetal force in this situation has to be the tension in the string. Okay, and so now since we know it's moving in a circle and the centripetal force is from the tension in the string, we also know that the iPhone charger is going to follow the equations that we had previously in the video. And so you'll notice that if I have a slower velocity, it's going to be kind of hanging down a little bit. It's not going to be very tight in the string. And that's because, you know, the force, the centripetal force is equal to the mass times the velocity squared over the radius. So a slower velocity is going to result in a lesser tension in the string. Now, if I increase the velocity, you can see that it is actually going higher, and that's because the tension in the string is increasing as the velocity increases too.
Alright, so I'm back again, and I'm just going to explain what Jason was talking about really quickly. And so, I'm going to start off with the simple free body diagram where you have the forces acting on the little wall charger that Jason was working with. So you've got the force of gravity and the force of tension. And what's interesting about this is the only real net force on it is the x component of the force of tension. The y components of the force of tension and the force of gravity actually cancel out, meaning that the only force is the x component of the force of tension, which becomes the centripetal force, which ultimately causes the ball to rotate in a circle of a never-changing height. And so what Jason actually does over time is he increases this force of tension so it's much greater. And so what this does is it creates an imbalance in what we had before. So now we have both a greater x component of the force of tension and a greater y component. And so what you'll see in his video is the ball starts to rise as he increases that force. And you'll also see one other thing. So one of the most important equations you'll see is this Fc equals mv squared over r. And so because this x component of the force of tension acts as a centripetal force, the centripetal force increases too, which results in a greater change in velocity. So just by increasing this force, the ball increases in height and it starts to speed a lot, and it starts to have a much greater speed. So that's about it.
Yeah.
Alright, what's up, boys? Chapter 5, Uniform Circular Motion. Let's get into it. Okay, so for every object traveling in a circle, there is going to be some kind of centripetal force acting on it to keep it going in a circle. Now, the centripetal force can be provided by any type of force, and it is always going to be pointed towards the center of the circle. Now, velocity and centripetal force are always going to be perpendicular to each other, so they are never going to interfere with the other. Now we got some equations for you. Acceleration is going to be equal to the velocity squared over the radius. And then, since we know that F equals ma, we know that the centripetal force is going to be equal to mv squared over r. And so you can see here we've got the acceleration pointed towards the center of the circle and the velocity pointed outwards, and they are both perpendicular to each other. And then the centripetal force is going towards the center of the circle as well.